Teachers of Reddit, what is the best gossip or drama you have heard from your students? Not a public school teacher, but was a daycare teacher for a room of 3-year-olds. One of the little girls had a mother who, to put it kindly, had a less than wholesome image. One day when I arrived, it was after drop-off time, she told me, almost proudly, that mommy and daddy had a fight and the police came and they took away mommy and silver bracelets. She stopped coming shortly thereafter and I never did find out how that situation was resolved. Working with that age group people hear a lot, but that one really stands out. In my first assignment at an inner city high school, I had a very nasty principal. He was from a law enforcement background, had very little experience or knowledge of educational practices, and it showed. As a result, I think it made him very insecure around his teachers. He frequently snapped at us, literally yelled at us in front of our students and screamed at us in faculty meetings. He was insanely unprofessional and the students and teachers hated him. One day a student told me our principal was losing his home. I responded, haha, okay, and he said, seriously, it's in the paper. Sure as it. There was some kind of public notice in the newspaper that our principal's expensive home was being foreclosed on. A few teachers quietly gossiped about it but we all acted none the wiser. Later that week, there was a fight in the cafeteria during lunch. Principal and the school cop came to break it up. Principal grabbed the perpetrator by his collar, yelling in front of everyone, "I'm starting the process to expel you now." The kid snapped back, "Like your broke ass has any power. You can't even pay the note on your house." Saw a senior crying during class a few years ago. I took him outside so he could calm down. And he goes, "Can I say something, man to man?" And he tells me his girlfriend, I'll name her Cassidy, cheated on him with 5 other guys. In the span of a school week. He found out only because she filmed each. He thought it was just because he didn't go out with her one night because he had an essay to finish. My god. I almost cried with him. I think I had the girl in one of my classes. Not sure though. It did quite the number on the kid because they had been dating since freshman. I saw his grades falter and then drop quite a bit. But he thankfully recovered mentally. I usually don't really despise any students. But duck you, Cassidy. Not really drama, but one time in a 5th grade class I saw a student passing a note. I collected it and it read, "If you don't go out with Hannah you will seriously regret it. I will beat you up and you will cry. P.S. No hard feelings." It was the funniest thing I have ever read ever, especially if you knew the student who was doing the threatening. A high school junior got shot in the ass after getting caught trying to steal weed and money from a dealer's house. Dealer wasn't supposed to be home for a while, but got back early and caught the kid in his house. Kid freaked out and bolted out the back door, but dealer had a gun and was shooting to kill. Kid was lucky to just get shot in the ass. Also, a freshman was getting bullied but the school I was at the time wasn't taking it seriously. This was an inner city school, so it was pretty rough. Freshman's mom was tired of the school not doing anything, so she came to school at the time her kid had class with the bully. Kid told mom what room they were in. Mom snuck in the school through the unlocked back door, makes it all the way to the 3rd floor, waits for the bell to ring, and pegs the bully in the head with a full can of pop. The mom ended up getting arrested and had charges pressed by the school. I was out sick that day, but it happened a couple doors down from my classroom so I got to hear all about it when I got back. Pulled a serial troublemaker out of class, 8th grade, to talk. Other teachers on my team were complaining that he'd been more aggressive than usual, and as the team leader I wanted to chat before bringing in the admin. After a few minutes of asking how his life was going, he broke down a bit, but tried to hide it with a defiant shrug. "I'm going to see my dad this weekend." "Oh yeah? How long has it been?" I recalled the kid's dad was in prison. 5 years. Another shrug. His body language said no big deal, but his eyes told another story. "Okay, what are you gonna talk to him about?" "My brother." "Oh, I didn't know you." "I'm gonna ask what he did to put my brother into a coma." Not gonna lie, I totally froze. "Your dad hurt him?" "Yeah." "I wanna know what he hit him with." I honestly had no idea how to reply. Can't hug a student, even if he would let me, which he wouldn't. I started to say something about how he's a strong kid, and I had high hopes for him, and if he needed anything, but he cut me off. I need to use the bathroom. Capital I. I got hairspray in my eyes this morning while I was getting ready. It really stings. He was fighting to keep emotion off his face, but it wasn't some sweet, cathartic response to my platitudes. His eyes were holding back an epic rage, fury the likes of which I don't think I'll ever understand. I'm not much into stuff like telepathy, but I could feel his anger boiling over, even though he was still as a stone. Okay, I said, but if you want to talk. He was down the hall before I finished. Girl was complaining about being grounded indefinitely. A dad had showed up unexpectedly at a party she had gone to. Apparently she'd volunteered to have all the football players run a train on her, and dad walked into the middle of it. It apparently wasn't fair because it was her body, and as soon as she turned 18 she was going to Vegas to work as a prostitute anyway. The students came back after the weekend and were talking about a wild party that G had had. They then asked what his mum's reaction had been when she'd got home. Apparently G's mum had confiscated his and his brother's bedroom doors, as in completely removed them from the frame as punishment because they couldn't be trusted. To this day I would still love to know what happened to warrant that punishment. I used to work as a teacher at a school, grades KG-12, in the Middle East. One day, one of my fellow teachers grabbed a note from a high school student, which was written in their native language. The teacher was American. He asked a few local staff members to translate and all of them refused because it was too vulgar. We finally found out that it said, "There's a whole lot of pussy licking going on at this school." Is it just me or is this thread not full of the light-hearted gossip and drama I thought it was going to be filled with? I'm a speech therapist in a public school. I went to get a 5th grader from class so I could screen him. I'd never met or seen this kid before, so I was expecting him to be a little reserved around me at first. I introduced myself and asked how his day was going. He told me his day was bad and then launched into this 5-minute story of so and so sent nudes to this kid, and she said I sent nudes but I didn't mean to. I just got out of the shower and fell and my phone took and sent a picture. But this girl sent one back as I'm furiously scribbling down every name he mentioned so I can report it. Him and his girlfriend were both in my class and sat together. He cheated on her with her twin. She abruptly asked to change her seat mid-year. I didn't find out until the end of the year. My sister teaches 3rd grade, and yesterday told me that one of her students, when a girl asked him for one of his snacks at lunch, said "I'll slap you in the face with my D." She said it was a very uncomfortable conversation with the boy's mother. I'm still somewhat new to teaching and tend not to hear a lot of classroom drama or gossip, but recently a few students of mine have been giving me a lot of nitty-gritty information about their home lives, which are usually not going so great. One kid I subbed for began telling me about how someone broke into her house on her birthday and stabbed her puppy, which was her birthday present, to death. She clearly had a lot of trauma related to it that I don't think her parents were really paying attention to. Right now I have a student whose mother is going through cancer treatments and he's been asking me a lot about if it's okay to be sad and what if someone is sad for a very long time. And also telling me about the treatment and keeping me very up to date. So that's been a bit heavy. The parents also talked with me about the situation. So I'm getting a whole lot of information about this very intense and difficult time for this family, which is bizarre but not necessarily bad, as it gives me a better toolkit to support this student. Apparently during a year 10 food tech lesson a boy was caught fingering a girl by the teacher. The boy telling me has sworn he is never going to enter the food tech room again because he doesn't know what surfaces those fishy fingers touched. His words. I had to try really hard then to put in my serious teacher face. My students tell me about all the ridiculous bullet other professors do. One who sleeps with students. One that randomly assigns grades but doesn't grade anything. One that's an alcoholic. College students know everything about us and they have no secrets. Sped Ed here. Had a foster mom who always had sped kids assigned to her. They were usually the worst of the worst. She gets a set of brothers who really weren't that bad. They were identical twins but very different. Almost like one was dropped on his head. The dropped head twin began talking about a neighbor's dog that he was always playing with. He was getting mad because his brother and cousins, other foster kids, were beating him up for playing with the neighbor's dog. Bus driver shows up with the whole story one day. His version of playing with the dog was taking it into the bushes to have a bestiality session. His brother and cousins caught him and beat the crap out of him because, well, you know. Former teacher here. I once heard a guy mention that Bubba's family secretly had slaves on their plantation. I should mention that Bubba was this redneck kid who wore the Confederate version of Uncle Sam's costume to school at least once a week and hunting camo the other 4 days. Anyway, I never found out if the gossip was true, but they were saying that Bubba's family had basically paid for a bunch of mail order brides from Vietnam. Instead of marrying them, they just took away their passports, so they couldn't run away, and made them work. One of my students committed suicide half a year after he left school. He was about 17 years old. Heard it from students who were best friend with him and still at my school. I was a teacher's assistant in a high school classroom for a few weeks while I was in college to be a teacher. Ended up hearing a rumor about how our teacher was on Jeopardy and he did really well and won a few days. All the kids talked about it, loved him, and thought he was really smart. I took the guy's name and did some research. Turned out he was on Wheel of Fortune and did horrible. The guy was a complete D to me, so I torrented his episode, burned it to a disk, and I gave it to this kid who didn't seem too popular. Never know what happened. I hope the kid at least was popular for a few days. This one's a little gross and honestly hard to believe if you don't know how bad this school is. I'm not the teacher. A good friend is. She told me the other day of how the school had to remove the bathroom stall doors in the elementary school because they were finding students as young as 3rd graders performing oral sex in the bathrooms. A girl from North Jersey met a black guy on Tinder from Philly to blow him. When she got down there he was with his friend, so she blew him too. This was so secretive it required me to leave the classroom with the student. Justin has a kinda egg in his backpack. I worked as a religious school teacher. There were 2 kids in my class who had mixed parents, one Catholic, one Jewish. I heard kids whispering, "Josh thinks Santa is real. What an idiot. No shh, we can't tell him." I once found out from a student that I was sleeping with another student. Needless to say, I high-fived myself. Not a teacher, but when I was in middle school, due to a very complicated and weird situation that would probably take hours to explain, I spent most of my time working with the school counselor. One day I was finishing up some math homework when this super upset looking boy came in. Like, his eyes were puffy, his nose was runny, and he kept making those little sniffly hiccups that happens when crying really hard. He goes inside to talk to the counselor. After a few minutes of the counselor asking him questions, he very loudly and sadly says, "Davey said if I didn't do his science homework for him at lunch then he's gonna sneak in my house and take a big poop in my chihuahua's food bowl." Never saw that kid again. Never found out who Davey is. I still chuckle about it sometimes. Disclaimer, not a teacher, but was a student in high school when and where this happened. This girl got high off her ass and decided she wanted to ditch class for the rest of the day. So she hops the fence near the track football field. She ends up at Starbucks with a severely bleeding hand and ends up at the hospital. She caught her ring on the fence and it degloved her finger. For those who don't know what that means, imagine your skin is a glove on the flesh of your body, and that the flesh is a glove on the bone. She ripped both gloves off one of her fingers. Also supposedly started a GoFundMe for a replacement prosthetic finger. Also heard she did it again and lost a different finger. But I can't remember if she actually lost the second finger. 4 frightened girls came to me because they claimed that someone had been threatening them with emails and messages. And this person seemed to know a lot about their families and what they do in school. He or she threatened to kill them if they hung out with this girl. After much investigation, it turns out that the one who's been threatening them was one of the 4 girls all along. SMDH. I wasn't a teacher back then but a student. Around the time when Gossip Girl's Oxo was popular, there was a blog online spreading gossip about the school, students and its teachers. I used to eavesdrop or be nice to girls so they let me in on who, what, where or legitimacy of the gossip. Now as a teacher, I stow myself away hidden in my studio to avoid all these gossips and dramas, especially the office politics. Never thought I'd be that significant to be gossiped about, as both the students and teachers once thought gossip rumor that I'm a shady person. I just want to be left alone to do my work with my students. Never alone with a female student but often with one hard-working male student. So the school assumed I bent that way. Prior to the earlier version as a young teacher looking for a potential wife. I was 23 when I started my teaching career and students were 16+ year old. They joked that I could groom them and once they graduate they'll be 18 and legal to get married. But WTFEWW and holy no duck no. Another one was during undergrad semester. We used to stay for the night in the studio to do our projects and often spiff up a joint or two in it. We heard rumors that one of our lecturer was a pothead. One night he came into our studio, red-handed, caught us smoking. He forces us to hand it over while my friend was choking after holding in a drag. He took a 1-2 puff, stared at us in disgust and said, "This is weak," and left with it. We were just happy we didn't get expelled. Currently a student teacher. I heard from another student teacher in my program that a student in his 11th grade classroom told him about a ring of students who asked to go to the bathroom at the exact same time as one another and meet up in a bathroom and vape together. The student teacher had to report it to his mentor teacher. It launched a whole investigation from the administration. Safe to say, my middle school classroom looks a lot less exciting after hearing that. When I heard about the kid that was just vicious to students, friends, and parents, and one of only 2 students I have truly disliked in my entire career, pushed one of the guys he hangs out with far enough that he beat the hell out of him. That one was quite the talk of the staff room. Girl talking about being grounded. Can't go out on weekends. etc. Didn't say when she would be ungrounded. She gave herself a prison style tattoo in her bedroom and is grounded indefinitely. Tattoo looked crappy too. Well, my math teacher told me this. Obama's kids went to my school when I was in kindergarten, and we basically found out he was running for president before anyone else. The youngest daughter told her friend. As a secret from what I heard, she was in primary school, and it got all the way to the high school in a matter of hours. My math teacher was amazed by this. Weeks later Obama announces he's running and Secret Service show up at my school to escort the daughters every day. Oh, another story is how my 9th grade history teacher was mad at a Secret Service guy for standing in the halls without a motive. Because it was classified. She was a hard Chicago woman, so she finally got angry enough to crack the Secret Service guy and made him tell her the deal was finally a good one. So I was not a sub when this incident happened. The principal at our school had a daughter who attended the school I am currently the on-call sub for. One day a few years back at a rally she was caught giving blowjobs to 2 students at the same time in the men's locker room. By him. Now all the students talk it and ask how his daughter is doing when they get in trouble. Never seen a principal have so much anger when talking to a student. He adds on days to suspensions if anyone makes any reference to it. Story 2. We had a senior that was dating someone who was 23, but he also had a side chick that attended school with him. His main girl found out and came and got in a fight with the side chick during school. Never seen an adult walk onto a campus and pull some girl's weave out. Felony assault on a minor. It's wild in the inner city. Story 3. We had a student bring a Glock on campus and campus was shut down. He was trying to flex like a gangster. Well, he was arrested. Gun ended up having 2 bodies on it. He was released 3 months later. So he snitched on the person that gave him the firearm. So many stories. Many about the same family. My favorite is that coming off of Thanksgiving weekend. A 3rd grader filled me in on how pissed his mom got at his dad, exes, and so together they put fireworks in his car and lit it on fire. I told his mom in a haha kind of way at conferences a few weeks later, thinking it was just a funny kid story, and she said that son of a bitch had it coming. Also, he told me once about how his older brother would share his gummy bears that made him feel funny and fruit punch that made him puke. Finally, at the end of the year, the same mom, who I had been forced to call CPS about for numerous reasons over the course of the year, texted me to ask if I wanted to buy drugs from her. It was such an exciting school year. I'm not a teacher, but I had a math teacher that was really cool and he was like 26 or something and mad chill. At the time there was a gossip in the classroom and like amongst other students he had, and it was well known around the school that 2 language teachers, male and female that had their own spouses, would meet in the parking lot during lunch to duck, and every student now knew this to be the truth. While other teachers heard students talking about this rumor and shut kids up, told them not to say such things, my math teacher would join us and make comments about how it's crazy that two teachers were ducking and how he wouldn't duck her cause she was old. The male language teacher was a young dude and the lady was like 45. My math teacher would contribute to the drama whenever he saw the two teachers in the hallway and outside. There were days when he saw them get into one car at around 12 o'clock when we had his class, and he would say it like, looking out the window at the start of the class, "Holy it, look, they're about to duck again," and he would joke around like that's the third time this day and scream out the window, "Hey, there are children watching." We were on like the 5th floor, so it was obviously a joke and my math teacher was having a blast always contributing to it. We did that wasn't scholarly. Awesome teacher, he was funny as duck and really good at explaining algebra to dumbuses like me. Only reason I passed his class honestly was cause he was chill and would tutor everyone in class. I used to be a teacher's assistant at an art school. There was this one kid who was the sweetest little angel I've ever met. Most kind, gentle, and calm kid out of all the students. We were free drawing one day and he drew him and his family. His dad had angel wings. He explained to me his dad died when he was 6. He was 8 at the time, and he was very sad every day. He missed him every day and he asked me if his dad was in pain anymore. What do you say to an 8-year-old kid in that situation? I just told him that I'm sure he's not. Goodness, that was one of the hardest moments in my job. I loved it, but it put me in a lot of situations that I wasn't prepared to handle. Edit. Spelling. Lol. Damn. I read all the comment expecting to laugh and stuff. So far I've seen 8 abusive parents, and a puppy stabbing,